Okie dokie.
So hello, friends, and today we have an absolutely amazing Marcel Heyne. Is it how I pronounce your name and surname?
Yeah, Marcel Heyne is actually so.
Highness. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm autistic. I'm very good at insulting people. I'm trying to change it. So, so guys, you won't believe it, but well, the thing we thought we invented, Marcel actually did that on steroids, and like a few years before us. And he's leading 4,000, is it 4,000 people following you on Twitter or like, I don't remember. It was something crazy.
No,
Maybe
1,500
more.
something. No. It's not that much.
Oh, well, it's a lot still. But yeah, maybe if you tell us how you came to this, because like person with your intelligence could do very well, not actually helping the society, sitting somewhere in amazing great cubicle, doing amazing boring job and riding Tesla. So
Well, yeah. Thank you. I'm taking that as a compliment.
it is.
But actually, most of my life, I've worked more or less on internet projects that are not involved in this development cooperation kind of thing. But like 6-7 years ago, I changed it. I have a background in IT and business management, something like that. But I've worked on internet projects since 1996. So yeah, quite some time. And 6-7 years ago, I thought to myself, okay, maybe with all the things that you've learned so far, you can do something that is kind of helpful for society, for the planet, and whatnot. And well, I didn't have a background in development cooperation, so basically at that time I had like all the time and resources to think of things. And I did research, and so I said, because I wanted to find out the best way of kind of changing lives, for example, in the global south, or changing basically, well, creating a sustainable future. And it turns out that the key to change are women. And this is something that is not this is not being discussed, because everybody in development cooperation agrees that women are the key to change in their families, in their communities. Because first of all, well, we know for a fact, for example, that if a woman earns earns money, if she's if she's empowered economically, she will spend like 95% of that money in her family. So for education, for nutrition, healthcare, etc. So she spends the money of her in her family. For men, this percentage is around 35%. So 35% of the money they make, they will spend on family, and the rest is for their own pleasure. And we can imagine the rest. So this is only one factor, but another important factor is that, well, there's so much potential in women, because we have to understand that women have been excluded in many countries, excluded from the educational system. So we know that we have 500 million illiterate rural women on this planet. So 2/3 of all illiterate people worldwide are women. And well, if we know that women are the key to change, and that we have to empower women to achieve gender equality, to unleash this potential, then at this and at the same time we know that we have 500 million women that are illiterate. That kind of poses the question: okay, how can we create like a scalable way of providing knowledge to them? And that was basically the starting point for everything that we did, that we started like 6-7 years ago.
Who was we? How many of you were there?
Two, actually. So my wife and myself.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and this is still the core of the organization.
But this is good, because the difference is that in your case, women were included from the very beginning.
Yes.
Actually, in my case as well, because the second person was the second and third people. They were from North Africa,
Okay.
and my first big supporter, Andy Piper, well, is very diverse as well. So amazing
So
person. So
that's always a good idea.
female
So
scholars.
yeah. And so yeah, we started it off actually, and she always worked on women's empowerment, on gender equality issues and all that stuff. So that was really helpful at that point, definitely, because my part is more like the technological kind of thing. And then we started it, and we said, okay, well, what is the way of making, what is a good way of making this accessible? And digital audio, turns out, is a fantastic way, because, well, you know that MP3 format was developed 30 years ago, and MP3 made digital audio, well, very accessible. Audio became very portable, and today we take it for granted. But if you think, because, well, our mobile phones are MP3 players, and we are streaming everything. But when it comes to, if you think of development cooperation, and if you think of making knowledge accessible, digital audio is nothing short of revolutionary, because every smaller organization can use it actually to provide women with knowledge. You have to think that usually community outreach, so reaching out for marginalized women, is still a very, very cumbersome task. Because if you think, for example, of sub-Saharan Africa, you have like long distances on muddy roads, and maybe once a month somebody gets to this village, and once a month somebody talks for 1 hour about a topic. People cannot take notes because they cannot read or write. You cannot give them a brochure. So it's very, very cumbersome and not
This
very.
is amazing that you found this idea. I mean, this is so powerful. Using words.
I think it is. I think it is, and actually, it has proven to be powerful over the last few years, because we developed the idea constantly. Well, the ideas to make digital audio accessible, and we started off actually with this mobile MP3 player. It has a solar panel on the back, so this kind of thing works everywhere. You don't need a mobile phone. You don't need electricity, nothing. And we've used this, for example, in the first pilot project in Tanzania in 2016, but also in the rainforests of the Congo, where with nomadic pygmy tribes, where you really don't have any infrastructure at all, and where this is the only way you can really provide like scalable access to knowledge. And if you take, for example, the example of the nomadic pygmy tribes, we are talking about communities that only have oral language. So basically, this is a community of 440,000 people, 50,000 people that live in the rainforest, and they speak this specific language. Aka is the name of this language, and it is not a written language, because I mean most of the languages on this planet are actually not written languages, are oral languages. If you say, for example, in Uganda, you have like 50 languages. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, something between 100 and 250 languages, and most of them are not written. And so using digital audio is actually a very, very good way of taking these oral languages, recording them, and then playing it back to people. And so this is why we've always looked for scalable ways of providing this digital audio to local organizations. And we always work with local NGOs, with non-government organizations, or with community-based organizations, which are usually smaller. And at some point, we have like two parts of the project. One part is content, and the other part is technology. So the content part is actually recorded audio about nutrition, healthcare, women's health, etc. And this is where we created a project that is called Audiopedia, which is like Wikipedia, but it is based on audio, and it kind of contains different contents. It contains not information about Dostoevsky, but more about diarrhea, if you want. So because it's about knowledge that is relevant to women in the global South. And this project is basically, well, at some point we also attended an accelerator program of Wikimedia Germany, and then we built basically the technological platform also for it, which is based on MediaWiki, which is the same software that Wikipedia is using or has been developing over the last 20 years. So this is the kind of the content part. But in difference to Wikipedia, we also have to kind of develop user interfaces that make the audio accessible to women with limited digital skills. So because even if a woman, for example, has a smartphone in the Global South, if she cannot read or write, it will be difficult for her to use the smartphone at its full potential. And so we've developed like user interfaces that allow, that are basically web applications where you have like a big play button, and then you have like a QR code, you scan the QR code, the web application shows up, big play button, and bam, and then you start listening, something like that, to make audio very, very, very accessible. So we did that over the last years, and we got funding from the European Union and also from the German government, and we tested it, and we tested many different things. And for example, even if you have the good old feature phones, the basic phones, you can use SD cards in the phones to play back the audio. This works very, very well also. But you can also use WhatsApp, for example. WhatsApp uses audio, and in India alone, the country with the largest number of illiterate people. I mean, I think we have 200 million illiterate rural women in India, 200 million out of the 500 million, as I mentioned before. 390 million people in India are using WhatsApp, 390 million. So you see the potential of it to provide audible knowledge. And at some point we said, okay, we always believed in open content and open source, more like a state of mind. And then we said, okay, now we have to officially kind of open source the technologies, the web apps that we developed, because we want local developers to adapt them to the needs of the local organizations. That easy. So basically, if you have this MP3 player application, if you want this audio player application, then, for example, if we're currently doing this in Uganda, a local female developer, for example, develops an application about tuberculosis for a local organization, and this is basically what we're doing with open source for equality. So basically we said, okay, we think this is a good idea. So we have to create an initiative to bring different partners, people together. And this is why I created this initiative, also the platform. We have the web page where you can sign up as an organization, as an NGO or community-based organization, but also as a developer. And the idea, I mean, in the long term, is to bring those together. So basically that a local organization says, oh, it would be great if I would have an audio application about gender-based violence, which is a huge problem. And then a local developer says, okay, no problem, I will create that for you. Maybe for free, maybe they can charge something for it, but ideally they will do it for free. And then a local solution based on open source is being created in this country. And this is the idea. And we're still at an early stage. Yeah, I hope so. We're still at we're still in an early stage. And so, as you said, I think our approaches and other approaches too bear some similarities, but we focus first of all on applications, open source, that supports sustainable development goals, and secondly, specifically even SDG 5, the 5th Sustainable Development Goal, which is gender equality. So we have a focus on solutions that empower marginalized women, and ideally are being developed by local female developers, because as you know, well, we have, like, depending on the statistics that you quote, between 4 and 6% of all contributors to open source are women. And in Africa, the situation is even more difficult. So finding local female developers that want to participate in this and develop solutions for local NGOs, that is the goal. And this is like,
Mhm.
this is like sometimes kind of picking the needle in the haystack, because well, you have to find, there are, for example, there is the open source community Africa, and they have, for example, a chapter in Kampala in Uganda, and we are working now with them to develop local solutions for local NGOs. But this is kind of how things are working right now, because the point is, everybody agrees, and this is kind of, and if I say everybody agrees, I mean the United Nations have like a roadmap for digital cooperation, where they say we need to create digital public goods, and digital public to support sustainable development goals. Digital public goods are actually open source, open AI, open content, open standards that support sustainable development goals. And so everybody agrees on that. And also the same applies, for example, for the German Ministry of Economic Development and Cooperation. Everybody says, yeah, we need open source digital public goods to attain the sustainable development goals. But this is like the top-down approach. So how can we really create the structures to do that? And if you want, for example, if you focus on SDG 5, gender equality, women are key to a sustainable future. If we focus on that, we would actually need female developers to develop those applications, ideally, because they understand the target, the beneficiaries better than male developers. That's for sure.
Yeah, I really like that you're not just coming to, well, you're not just coming and preaching to people. Instead, you give them the tools, because somebody will, well, there was this joke that a fox is teaching mice to attack the owls and eat them, because that will solve the problem strategically. But like, how do we do it? I don't know. I'm a strategist. So, so in your case, you're actually giving device. You're creating the ecosystem, and what is even better, you find local people who are more connected with the community, way more, because they know local problems way better than you, and even better if they belong to the same group.
Exactly.
So this is amazing, because we are helping people after that, after they are already literate, and so probably it will be like their kids, because like, well, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm not so smart, but some of them will actually. It's quite interesting. So besides saying that it would be really nice if you could talk at, let's say, London Java community. It's big. I think you might find some allies there. It's 8,000 people, and it's not London and it's not Java anymore. It's bigger. You can speak anything there, from low-level assembly to phishing, and these important topics, of course, as underrepresentation. And also there's So Java, which is, I think, biggest Java group in the world, 40,000 people, I think. So maybe you could speak there as well. But for those who are listening to us, if they wanted to help, I think it's called Open Source for Equality, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So if they want to help Open Source for Equality, led by Marcel Heyne, right?
Heyne, yes.
Heyne,
Yeah.
and your amazing, I think it's wife, right? Or
wife, yes.
Yes. What is her name?
Felicitas.
Because, well, they both need to know the heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if somebody wanted to support you or help you, there will be people, different genders, different nationalities, different languages watching us. So what would you tell them to do? How can they join your amazing journey? Because what you're doing, it's unbelievable. It's like, it's genius. It is genius. You're fixing the problem where it is. So I'm just trying to help with consequences, but you're fixing it at the roots.
Yeah, no, but I think, well, all of us are doing our part, if you want. So basically, I hope that what we do will work. This is still, I mean, as of now, I'm positive, and our pilot project in Uganda is working very well. We're seeing very good results, and the thing is really, especially for female developers, it is very difficult to basically continue their career, etc. So you often find, first of all, it's difficult to enter a career in computer science, and then secondly, continuing this career, you see a lot of dropouts. And even if for the first batch of participants that we had of only 5, because we are trying things right now. We will have a second batch in October with more people, but among the 5, we had like 2 dropouts that already left basically their career to pursue other careers, and now we could kind of hopefully get them back and to see, okay, we have this safe space, and you can work here and do this. Yeah.
Maybe I could help with this though. Well, sometimes I'm good with helping people not to make steps which will damage them. So maybe you can tell them next time, go and talk to Nikita.
Yeah, because, absolutely.
Because I can find them, well, they might not be up to creating your mobile app, but I might help them to find their true values and start contributing to other open source projects. Then they'll hopefully come back, or they will probably sponsor you or something.
Absolutely. I think,
nice.
as I said, all of us can do our part in this, and the important part is, as you know, especially for female contributors, participating in open source is quite a challenge, and we know the numbers, and we know that often open source projects, well, you find this kind of toxic masculinity and the male gatekeepers and blah blah. And it happens. It happens, and it seems to happen a lot because, well, there's some research on it, and we know that it's there. So yeah, we need, first of all, I mean, in general terms, we need to bring more women into open source projects, and there's a lot of things that we can do about that. But in our case, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say that I don't, maybe personally, I don't see it exactly as bringing them.
Yeah,
I know. I see it like removing the blocks which you artificially put only on female tracks.
Absolutely,
because,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's much easier to finish university if you don't have kids on your hands and somebody run away without any help to the female.
Absolutely, yeah. That is actually what I meant. So yeah, thanks for that kind of correction. Absolutely,
yeah. Sorry.
I agree. And yes, we have to. I think our goal is to create kind of a safe space where female developers can create applications that will be used in real life by local organizations. And so in a way, we have this open source approach, and we have our GitHub repositories and everything. But we really, I mean, when I talk about safe space, it's really that if I mentioned this kind of audio playback application. So this is a template on GitHub, and you have your you have your personal account. So you copy the template to your account, and then you can work on it in your privacy. So it's not like this is not a code base, and I'm trying to contribute something to a specific issue or whatever. It is a template, because what we want is that the safe space is basically the account, my account, where I can in privacy work on that. And at some point, when I have a finalized application with some audio contents, then I can get back and publish it and make it accessible, etc. So this is the kind of concept that we're kind of pursuing right now.
So you're creating the application which will be which is oriented. So basically, the local developers will build based upon this application for the local needs, right?
Exactly. So there is the template version, and there's of course like a repository which can be where the software can be further developed. But there's a template version which I can use to build something immediately. Like in 5 minutes, I have something, and this is the kind of thing that and I can do it in the privacy of my own account. So this is you seem to have a question.
No, it's not a question. It's because sorry, I'm autistic. My brain thinks like a tree, so and it's all the time. So I have to chop that. But I'm just thinking.
Same for me.
I'm just good. So I for some reason, all the male dev rails I've seen so far, they're all in depression, and some of them are autistic as me. So I'm in clinical depression. But yeah, maybe like depression brings us to try to protect other people from these feelings. Maybe that's what happens. But my idea was that. Oh, sorry.
No.
It might. But my idea was that in London Java community, for example, we do something called lightning talks, which is 5 minutes plus 2 minutes for questions, and we actually train people. We focus on people giving their first talks. So I just thought that you might want, like, if you want to help not help, it's a good opportunity for your heroes, local heroes for creating the apps. They could come and talk there, and they will start creating a brand for them, and it's all free. And
sure.
And they could visit us because we really need inspiration. I think I think if our community would see, like, well, because they're so close, it would be nice to know that next to us there are also friends, that we are not alone.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I think, for example, well, we are working with the open source community, Africa Kampala chapter.
Yeah,
I think they would be very interested in doing something like that. So I for myself, of course, I'm trying to. I'm speaking now at the Open Source Summit in Europe, in Dublin, and introducing
the one on the 15th September. This one.
Exactly, this one.
This
September.
I bought
yes.
the ticket.
Oh yes. Oh well.
Well,
Oh, great. So yeah, you should join my talk. Definitely.
I will.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm trying to, well, create the awareness, and this is of course something at this early stage we need to create the awareness, and what we are doing is really we're learning by doing, if you want. So we started this pilot project in Uganda in order to see, okay, this is the idea, let's test the idea with a small batch, 5 people, learn from that, take a larger batch, maybe 20, 30 people, and start scaling from there. Because what we're trying to do is really to create a program that local organizations can use to recreate this thing. Because we see that you have open source communities all over the place. You have, for example, Pi Ladies. I'm not sure whether you know. This is like a group of Python related women developers organizations all over the world.
No, I haven't heard of this one. I've heard of other, for example, Outreach. These guys are using
Outreach is fantastic. Is fantastic. It's more like this kind of stipend mentoring thing. So, but I'm talking about also local organizations. For example, Pi Ladies. So you have in Nigeria, you have, I think, 4 or 5 local organizations.
Unfortunately, I don't know them, because the funny thing is that when I was looking for open source, when I was beginning the journey, the first conference I found was Open Source Africa. And it looks so cool. I think it's called Open Source Africa. And most of my friends, they're from Nigeria, open source friends, and from India. Okay. And like, I was like, wow. I mean, they're so smart. They're so intelligent. I'm like, who is helping whom?
Yeah, Open Source Community Africa, Open Source Community Africa is great. Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of people doing amazing things out there. And of course, I mean, if we talk to each other, we might do even more amazing things by working together. And so for us, we are still at an early stage. And so I think if I mean, the original question was, what can somebody actually do? And well, you can sign up on Open Source for Equality, osec.org. And this is a first step. So basically, what we're trying to do is build a community of entry-level developers, mentors, and allies, and also NGOs. So basically, the idea is really to connect. And if, for example, an NGO in Nigeria, and this has happened in the past, if an NGO in Nigeria said, okay, it would be great for us to have this application in Igbo about gender-based violence. And then somebody says, yeah, I can do it. It's not that difficult. And so bring people together. And so, well, open source becomes more and more relevant for local organizations, but also for local developers. And I think you would agree that open source is a great way of kind of improving your career path and creating more options for yourself.
I would say that personally, some people, they love technology. I don't. I like it, but I love people. But open source is the tool which I found to work best for people, because I don't need to prove somebody that, oh, this person is worthy to go to this university, this person is intelligent. I can just, oh, here's Microsoft repo. Oh, here's OpenEDX repo. Let's do it. And let's make sure that you are not a hidden figure. Let's make sure that community you, and let's make sure that what you are
Exactly.
doing actually matters to the community, and then it's done. Like,
actually, yeah, absolutely. I totally agree, and this is something that we want to achieve, and specifically, ideally for local female developers. So yeah, you can start with open source for equality and really say, yeah, look, this is my first project. Actually, the NGO is kind of my first customer, if you want. I made this for them, they are using it, so this goes into my CV. Another point for me on my CV, and this is I think this is how things should work.
yeah.
And of course, yeah,
My dream is that in this place there should sit actually not me, but some amazing lady who will be running the community, because she deserves it more. I'm just here because there's nobody else at the moment. But like, I mean, when I started it, it was one person. But I'm
yeah.
really, I'm trying to create the groups. My dream is to create the groups around the world, which are talking to each other, and they don't really need me. And I will only come when like there's something where heavy color is needed, like, I don't know, some racism or whatever. So I'll need to like bring heavy stuff to
Yeah,
protect
yeah,
people.
yeah.
So
That
something
makes
like
sense.
this.
Same applies to me. I'm only here because nobody is doing it at the moment, but I
It's
hope.
improving.
Yeah,
improving.
I hope that this will change. So I think we as an organization, I think we see ourselves as a kind of connector or facilitator, because we can only do what we do because we receive, for example, funding from the European Union and the German government. And usually what happens with funding and development cooperation is like a trickle-down approach. So the European Union, the German government, gives it to larger NGOs or the United Nations. A lot of money goes also to the United Nations. And the larger NGOs, think, for example, Oxfam, Save the Children, etc., where they have their huge structures. And then maybe at some point, a local NGOs might get something, but we are talking about in a single-digit percentage rate of the whole amount of money. So this is not a grassroots approach. And I ask myself, how is it possible to really, if everybody agrees we need digital tools, open source tools that are developed locally, how can you do that with this top-down approach? You have to build a bottom-up approach, a grassroots approach. And so as of now, I see ourselves, okay, we're kind of a trailblazer here, and we're trying to establish this. This is kind of new. This is thinking out. It's kind of thinking outside the box. And if it works out, then hopefully it flourishes, and it will create like decentralized structures where people in the countries lead the development. So yeah, maybe in 5 years from now, what we do will be obsolete because everything is working by itself.
I hope
Ideally,
it will.
yeah, I hope it will too. I hope it will too. But as of now, yeah, we see, and I also see my role as somebody, okay, who is pushing this agenda, who's pushing this idea, and yeah, if it works out, great. If not, well,
It will. It will.
Yeah.
There's a need, and there's us. And what is important, there are thousands of people who are supporting us. So if these amazing developers you mentioned, besides you speaking at the London Java community and probably South Java, it would be, because there are so many organizations. Women Who Code is one of them. There's Women in Research, but that's more mathematical. And there's, I think, Black Women Who Code, but I don't exactly remember. But actually, it's a shame because it's my favorite podcast. So I think your partners who create those applications, I think they should start communicating well. They should stop being hidden, because we deserve to know about these amazing people. So because we will learn a lot from them, and maybe we can contribute to the cause, and it will happen not in 6 years but in 5.5. Who knows?
Absolutely, and I totally agree with you. And if you can, for example, connect open source community Africa in Uganda with some communities you participate in, I think everybody would benefit from that. Definitely.
That's what I live for.
Yeah.
It's like
Okay.
my life.
So Yeah, so
That's the only thing I do.
so absolutely. So we should be doing that, definitely. So
yeah,
and
so yeah, so let's catch up after the well, after we stop recording, and maybe tomorrow, or let's catch up and
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And if I understood you right, we will see each other in Dublin, most likely.
I cannot afford going to Dublin at the moment, but
okay.
I will have online ticket.
Virtual. Okay, great. So okay.
So yeah, it's
so
great. It's not
yeah.
expensive. $25.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We should talk about that. I think for us, this year is still like we're trying to pilot things, and I think ideally next year we will be ready with a program that is kind of also scalable, that we can basically implement in other countries. So, but this year it's mostly Uganda where we kicked off, and of course I think it would make sense to connect local communities with your communities, etc.
Well, I hope you're not falling into this trap, because obviously you're a student stuff, but I believe you already have so much to share with the community, so you don't need to reach this end state. You will reach it, but you can start sharing. Well, you are sharing now. So if you develop, start sharing. We really should start doing it, because, well, at least good emotions are free and they actually help people.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah. And we don't need EU for that. We can create this stuff ourselves.
Absolutely,
yeah. Thank you very much. How do you say? No,
my pleasure.
I forgot my German, my basic German. Oh, tack så mycket, it's Swedish, right? Danke schön.
Yeah, exactly. Gerne. My pleasure.
Thank you. And yeah, let me see how this thing works. And it was absolutely amazing, Marcel, from Open Source for Equality. I'm just blown away, because like really, because I thought it's like us, but this is so closer to the source than like. That's what normally I teach people, go to the source, but now somebody else is teaching me to, like, there's possibility to do it even closer to the source. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hopefully, yes.
Experience.
Thank you.
Okay. And recording will stop now. So
okay.
See you, friends. Live long and prosper. And Marcel, don't leave yet.
Nope, I won't. Thank you.
Okay.